Hello everyone. My name is Melvin Calidozo. Well, in this series, I'll be taking you through how we can create the backend for our websites. All right. So don't forget to actually hit the like and subscribe button on the channel. Just search for the name, as you can see. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, as that is what makes me continue making more of these videos. Anyways, so let's get into today's business. So what is the backend, right? I think we should start by having a clear picture of our direction. So when we are talking of the backend, so we are basically talking about the code that will be running on our servers, right? The business logic, whatever that will be dynamically loaded on our websites, the static websites that we have created, will be handled by the backend of the websites. Right. So in this tutorial, we'll be actually walking each other through this whole process of how you can actually create these backend applications. Right. So what we'll be using here, we'll be using JavaScript. Right. So my assumption is you have like some basics of how JavaScript work. All right. The likes of variables, how you declare variables, how you declare functions, how you work around with functions, right? Classes not really that much, right? But then these things that I've mentioned, so I'm pretty sure you actually know how these things work. And I'll also be landing on an assumption that you have actually installed Node.js. That's from version 16 and above, right? I need you to install Node.js version 16 and above. And I also hope that you actually have VS Code editor, because that's what I'll be using. All right. This application will be using VS Code editor, right? So I hope you also have this installed. No further ado, let's get started. Right. All right. So what is NestJS, right? So to answer what NestJS is, let's go to NestJS documentation. All right. So let's open this browser. So as you always know, whenever you're trying to learn a particular language or a particular framework, it's best to actually go through their documentation, right? So we'll be going through the NestJS documentation. So as I said, NestJS is a JavaScript framework, right? It's used to create backend logic for our websites, right? So to get started with NestJS, here's the installation, right? So let's do this installation. First of all, we install the Nest CRI, right? So I'll create a new folder on the desktop, right? This is where we'll have our application. So I'll open git bash here, terminal, or whatever you use. You can open with VS Code and open terminal. I'll use git bash, right? So let me go and copy the command. Copy the command and let's paste it. Alright, so let's install the Nest CLI. So the Nest CLI will help us to learn Nest commands, right? The likes of the Nest keyword is not actually present in our terminals or on our Windows. So for us to be able to be using these Nest commands, we should actually install the NestJS CLI, which I'm actually installing right now. So after we do that, then we'll learn the Nest new, the project name right there. So this command right here is used to actually create a Nest application. Yes. It's actually that easy. You simply run a command and you wait, and all the magic will be done, right? So my network is kind of slow, so I'll pause it as we wait for the CLI to install. All right, so the installation is done, so we can now create our new application by copying this command. So let's paste it, right? And let's give our project a name. So we'll call our project, let's say, what project should we create? Let's create a notepad, right? New notepad, right? Call it new notepad, and we create, enter. So we are creating a backend for a simple notepad, right? Right. So I've chosen fed to execute command here. All right, let me do this. I should choose npm because npm is what I'm using. Npm, enter. Right. Okay, so I'm having conflicts because this first one created some files, right? So let me go and actually clear those files, right? So there's a conflict. Let me clear these files, right? There we go. So let me run it again and install using npm. I should use npm. As you all remember, npm is just a package manager managing all our dependencies and libraries and the likes. All right, so using npm, there we go. I think it's installing, so we wait for it to finish the installation. All right, so let's just give it some time. All right, so the installation is done. So now let's go into the folder and see the files it has created. Go into the new folder, the notepad, right click and open VS Code here. All right, so here is VS Code. So what do we have at hand? All right, so what do we have at hand? So right here we have the node modules folder. Right, the node modules folder is where all the packages have been installed, right? All the packages are installed in the node modules folder. So as a rule of thumb, this folder, never touch it. Don't delete anything, don't open it. As a matter of fact, just stay away from this folder. All right, the src is where we have our source code, right? All our program code will be in the src. All our logic, we're putting them into our src. The test folder is just simply there with test scripts. Won't really be looking at that right now because you test something that's functional. Right now, let's focus on making things functional using the src folder. All right, so we have got the git ignore. All right, this file here, this is for the GitHub. Right, this file is for GitHub. Right, this is where we add all the files that should not be pushed to our GitHub repository. So basically, these are all the files. These files, we don't need these files to be pushing them to our Git repository. The likes of node modules, this is a really huge folder. We don't need to push it into our repository, right? The build for our project, let's say if we learn npm build, it's basically as if we create like a duplication of our same site. We don't really need to push the build to our repository, right? This is a prettier, right? This is just for beautifying your code. The nest CLI, this one contains the configuration for the nest CLI which we just installed, right? We have got the package log to JSON and the packet to JSON. These two simply contain dependencies for our project, right? So how this work, all right? How the packet to JSON work is that, let's say we have pushed our program to, let's say, GitHub, right? To our online repository. We have pushed it to GitHub. So essentially what will happen is the node modules folder will not be pushed to GitHub. So how will the deployment site, or let's say if someone else clones your project, obviously they'll clone it without the node modules folder. So how will those individuals actually and the system know, could these are the packages that I need to install for the project for the program to run properly? It uses the packet JSON, right? So here it explains whatever dependency that is required, right? You see, so let's say muntu aipanga cron project, there are no node modules, right? So that person will simply run npm install, and then the npm install will go into the package.json and it will check for all the dependencies that it must install, and then it will install the dependencies. Once it installs the dependencies, it will create the node modules folder, which we actually need to run the project. All right, so we also have a readme file, right? So a readme file is just simply explaining the project, right? Just simply explain the project. We have the ts config, right? So this is just configuration, this one and this one right here. These are just configurations for our TypeScript, right? This is just configuration for TypeScript, right? So we'll not be really drilling much into that. Just know this configuration for TypeScript. Command, our most important thing, our main focus right now is on functionality, which is the src folder, right? So what's in the src folder, right? So as I said, okay, I didn't say it, but I'll say it now. NestJS is a modular framework, right? It's a modular language, right? It focuses on creating modules. That's its main focus is on creating reusable components, right? So that is achieved by the use of modules, right? The use of modules, controllers, and services. All right, this will help us to actually create reusable code. Okay, so what are all these files right here? All right, so the main.ts file, this one, this is just the entry point for our program. All right, so our program, once we start our program, this is the entry point. All right, as you can see right here, we have implemented we are starting the server, right? So it will be listening at port 3000, right? If you wanted to change the port, you can change it here. Okay, so this is just a simple function, an async function right here, and we are importing the different files from the different modules, right? We are importing the modules right here. So the next go, this is a module, this is also a module, right? That's why I said really don't touch the node modules folder, because it's actually important. That's where all our modules lie, right? That's where they all stay. All right, so this right here, we're just creating our application. Like this is creating a listening server right here. All right, so like this is the entry point of our application, and as you can see, it creates the app module, right? All right, so from this it uses the app module, right? So the app module is like our loot component, right? Our loot component, our loot module, right? So the NestJS application only lands, it only lands, all right? That's it's the app modules are the loot module, right? It's the loot module. So this is like the module at the top right there. This is the loot module. So all other modules will be communicating with this app module, all right, to properly function into our Nest app, right? So the app module right there is the loot module. So the controller right here is where we actually create our URLs, our routes, or our endpoints, or you can call them APIs, right? So this is it simply contains the URLs, right, that our front-end application can actually access, right? So our front-end application will be using those URLs to actually use or implement particular functionalities in the server side, right? So the app controller is where lies our URLs or the APIs or the routes, okay, or the endpoints. They'll be in our app controller. Now, our app controller do not have functionality. No, it does not have functionality. For functionality, it uses the service application, which is the app.service, this right here. So this is where we actually have all the logic, right? The business logic are right here into the app.service. All right. The app controller spec, this is just simply for testing. You might as well delete it because we don't actually need it right now. Okay. So going back to the documentation, we have done the installation, right? We have done the installation. So we want introduction. So let's go back. Right, NestJS documentation. So after I think we're on the first step. We have created the project, right? And this is our structure right here. We'll be having this structure. One we just created. Right, that's the default structure. This is the main.ts, right? Right. This bootstraps our application and so on. Now we were also talking about controllers, right? They're simply responsible for handling incoming requests, right? The incoming requests or responses will move through the controller as displayed on the diagram, right? So this is the current side. It sends a request, it will reach on the controller. Now the controller right here will send the request to the business logic, which is the service or the providers. You get a hang of it pretty soon. Right now we are simply going to go through the theoretical parts, right? So the controller's purpose has the routing mechanism, right? The routing mechanism, it uses what I called the URLs, right? You can just think of them as URLs because they are URLs, but then you can also call them endpoints or APIs, right? It uses those for the client side to be able to access the business logic right there. So they're like in the middle, right? So this is where the issue of the model view controller architecture comes in, right? So NestJS uses the MVC architecture, all right? In a sense that the controllers right here are the ones that are linking the clients with the business logic or the data or the database. In short, the model, right? So we have got the client side, the views right there, and then we have got the client, and we have got we have the controller, and then we have got the model, right? The model will be the databases, right? The data models and DDOs, things that we'll talk about in these subsequent videos, right? And there is also the concept of decorators, right? So here we'll be using decorators. Decorators are simply functions that help our classes or our modules to have extra functionalities. All right, what do I mean by this? All right, so for example, if we open our code right here, we go into the controller, you see we have got the at controller decorator. All right, so every decorator starts with the at, right? So we have the at controller decorator and the get decorator, right? All these are coming from NestJS Commons. All right, NestJS Commons is just simply a built-in package. So this package comes with NestJS, right? So in NestJS Commons, we have one of the things that we have are the decorators. So the controller decorator simply tells the NestJS application or application that this file is a controller, right? This file is a controller right there. So as you can see, we are creating a class, right? We have called it app controller, right, which will be using the app service, right? We are linking it with the app service, and we are saying goody, we also have this decorator which is called the get decorator. So this decorator right here corresponds hand in hand with the HTTP methods that we have, right? So you have the get method, the post method, the update method. All those in Next.js are represented as decorators, right? So we'll be looking more into the decorators as we go through the application, right? As we go through the video. Another decorator also in app module, right? Add module, right? This shows that this file is a module, right? So that's about decorators, right? So still talk about routing, right? You're talking about routing, right? We're talking about routing, how you can route. All right. And the next thing that we can talk about are providers, right? So providers is simply where our business logic lies, right? That's where we have our business logic. So in the providers is where we have all our business logic, right? So providers are also, we can also call them like services, right? So that services file that we have, right? That's simply a provider, right? So it has all the logic. it has, for example, logic for saving to the databases, right? It can save to the database, retrieve from the database, right? Or other logics happen in the what, in the services file or by the providers, right? In our project, this is the provider. Let me look for it, the service. So this is the provider right here. So I will explain later on what's going on, right? That's the provider. And we also have what we call modules, right? So modules are simply okay, they're saying that they use the module decorator, right? So they're simply used to organize the application structure, right? So the structure of our application will be organized by these modules um, file, right? What are we trying to say, right? So in the modules file is the modules file is what links all the other files. For example, in the modules file, you link in the controller, right? You link in the service for that particular file or module, right? So I'll be using these ways interchangeably, right? Or else I'll just use, let me use the word entity. Let's say you have a particular entity called user, right? So that user will have a user.module file, right? And that user.module file will connect to the user controller in the user service, okay? So this user module is making sure that all the files are actually connected, right? It's organizing all the files. And with the module file, we can also link to other modules, right? So it also helps to create a connection with other modules. All right, with the module file, you can link with other modules by simply exporting it or importing other modules in that particular module file. So this is an example of a module file right here. It's an example of a module file. So as you can see, this is a cat entity, right? So the controller here, it's cat's controller, and the provider is cat service, right? And we're also exporting the cat module. If we wanted to import a particular module or an external module, we would add the import statement right here. All right, like so. We'll add the import statement right there. All right, so we can export our cat service. It's possible also to export our cat service. That means another module in the same application will be able to use that service, right? So that's about modularity. Okay, so basically these are the basic concepts that you need to actually have to build your application. With this understanding, we can actually start going into building an application. The rest of the files will actually be discussing them as we go along, the likes of the middleware, exception files, the pipes, the guards, right? Some of these files here are simply there for validation, right? Some of them are there for authentication. So we'll be talking about those things as we go along. But for the basic structure, this is the structure that you need to actually create your NestJS backend application. All right, so we go back to our code, right? So to finalize the video, like the first part of this video, let's talk about what's going on now in this code after having all the noise that we have, right? So we know that the main.ts is the entry file, right? So we know that the app.module is the loop module, right? And we know that in the app.module, we're not importing any external module. Well, since there are no any other module, we see that the controller here, we're importing the app controller. And for the providers, the app service, we are also exporting the class app module. Exporting this class here makes it usable to external files, the same way it is being usable in the main.ts right here, right? Because it has been exported, right? So when we go to um, our service, our controller, we see that we have got this function right here, all right? It's expecting a string, right? And we're saying we will return the app.service get hello method, right? So this is just simply a function, in the app.service, right? So as you can see, we have imported the app.service up here. So which means we can now use the app.service, and we are able to import the app.service here because the controller and the service are being linked here, right? So in the controller, we are able to import that. So we're saying in the app.service, there's a method called getHello, which takes no any parameters. Call that method, right? Execute that method. So when we go to the app.service, we see that this is the method right here, the getHello, right? It's returning a string, and it is indeed returning a string, which is simply hello out, right? So let's try to hit this particular endpoint, which is a get, right? So for an endpoint which is a get, you can simply hit it, no stress. So to first of all do that, let's start our Nest application. Well, we have been talking too much, but our Nest application is still down and not yet running. So let's get it up and running. So we run npm run dev, npm start. There we go. Now our service has started, right? As you can see, all the things that are there, you can check the things out. And this is a smart actually system because these Nest guys have created us an application that can actually loads itself. So whenever we click save, it will actually load. Okay, so this is an improvement coming from, because NestJS is coming builds on top of the likes of Express and pure node code, right? So it's building from those things, because previously for you to actually implement this, you had to use things like NodeMon, right? You had to use things like NodeMon. Now coming in of Nest, things have become more modular, more simpler, and very easy to actually use. Okay, so for those who are doing their backends using a Node, pure Node, Express, I mean, you're living in the old age. For the latest stuff, let's use NestJS. All right. So our application is now running. Okay. So application is up and running. Right. So another thing that I wanted to introduce to you guys is Postman. All right. So you guys need to know Postman. Every developer, backend developer must know Postman. If not Postman, any other to work manual for me, let's use Postman, right? So what is Postman, right? So Postman is simply an application, right, that simulates, let me open that. Let me open the Postman first. So Postman API platform, right? Say is an API platform for building and using APIs, right? Postman simplifies each step of the API lifecycle and streamline. Okay, so they are talking all those gibberish English stuff. Commando basically what Postman does is that it will pretend to be the client side, right? So we can access our APIs as if we were on the client side, right? And we'll be receiving the responses and whatever we get, right? So we'll be using Postman, all right? So you have to download Postman, right? For us to test our endpoints, we'll be using this guy. This is Postman. So we'll be testing our endpoints using Postman. Postman will be pretending as if is the client, right? We'll be pretending as if it's the client and hit those particular endpoints. After it hits those particular endpoints, and it will give us the response. In such a way, we'll be able to know whether our endpoints are actually working or not. So we'll be using Postman. So this is its interface. Right? Okay, why am I even showing you the interface from the site? Let me just open Postman. I already have Postman, so you do the needful here and make sure you download Postman wherever the download button is. I can't find it, so make sure you download Postman and install it. Right? I already have it, so I won't stress. So here's my Postman. So let's wait for my Postman to open. right? Dark theme, dark mode, just the way a programmer likes it. Everything must be black. Let's wait for it to load. I mean, are there still programmers who code using white themes? Okay, it gets me wondering. I don't know if there is a programmer that is using a white theme. Please, can you say so in the comment below? We need to give you a special appreciation, because, well, that's something else, man. So create a new collection, blank collection. All right, so here's a new collection. Well, do not worry about these files. These files are really something you shouldn't be looking at, so please close your eyes. So okay, now you create a new collection. All right, you create a new collection. So let me close my recent the recent stuff that I opened up there. So as you can see, I was already testing another backend, right? So please don't look at them. Let me close all these, save changes. Let me close everything else. Let me close everything else. All right. So in my new collection right here, right, I can give it a name. Right? I'll call it Notepad. Right, I'll call it Notepad, and then I can add a new request. So as you know, our request is a get. Right? We're trying to get. Our request is a get. Say get from Notepad. Notepad right there. All right. So now enter URL or paste text. Right. So the URL we are trying to enter here is the endpoint that we were talking about. Okay, or the route that we are talking about. So in our application right here, the endpoint, so we know that it's running on localhost 3000. Okay, I can't find it right there, but we know it's let me copy this one, https local hosts 3000. All right, slash, and we send. What did I miss? Okay, wait, let me fix things up. Let's try using it in our browser. Localhost 3000. Bro, why is it searching online, man? Why is it searching online? Localhost 3000. Okay, so there it goes, hello world, right? Showing hello world in the browser. But the reason why I don't like using the browser, because with the browser we can only perform a get, right? But then we can't perform all other HTTP methods, right? Like we can't post, we can't update, we can't do all the rest. That's why we must use Postman. I think there was something wrong with my typing. Let me see. Ah, there we go. That's the response. It's hello world. So let's see, what was the problem? I think the problem is that I was using an HTTPS request instead of HTTP. Right there, I was using an HTTPS, a more secure way of sending a request. All I need is an HTTP. And there we go, we have hello world right there. So, well, our backend is working and our notepad is working. Well, application basically is working. So we go into our service right there. So this guy right here will return right here. That's what is being returned. Right. So you can change this to right, said it was here before you. And some little exclamation marks there to actually emphasize the point. And save it. and we go to Postman and we send the request. Dang, I think the server is now still refreshing. I think it's done refreshing. It's end. There we go. Cyber was here before you, and this fun. Right there. And I think I should use let me try to do the same right here. That's still fresh. Cyber was here before you. I think I should use this for my cover, my thumbnail for my video. I think I'll use this. I mean, Cyber was here before you. So, anyways, guys, this was an introduction for an introduction to your to NestJS applications, right? This is an introduction to NestJS applications. So, um, we have a lot to do. Right? We have a lot to do. So, we'll have to create this whole application, right? So, application say we're build um, from here until down, and kwa building this site, I'll actually share the entire code that we'll be working on GitHub. But nevertheless, that should not stop you from practicing. Okay, I'll recommend you guys to be typing when I'm typing. All right, but at the end of it, I'll post it in GitHub, and we'll actually create a front end that will actually consume from this API. Right, but for now, well, let's call this let's call it a day, right? Let's call it a day. So don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and don't forget to drop in some comments of what you think we should add, what you think we should remove, what you think you want to learn, and basically just say hi in the comment section. So yeah, I think now the video ends here, and the importance of you actually interacting with my comments, sending the like, subscribing, it plays really huge role, because it makes me create more videos and continue making videos. So if you don't like my videos, then I'll most likely be demotivated and actually stop creating videos. So hit the like button, share to your friends, share to someone who might need to actually learn these things, right? Share to all of them, and well, I highly appreciate you guys. Right, so well, thank you very much, and I think now I'll go with my producer and gaming sound. The song is also going to an end. Anyways, I'm out.